extreme rainfall is really hard to deal with because the soil becomes saturated, especially if it has been raining for so long before that. It can't hold it, and that leads to flooding. That leads to landslides, that sort of thing.
And next question will be a little more interesting. So from your perspective, so what do you think? What will be the biggest climate or environmental change or challenge that Kerala might face in maybe in coming years or maybe in decades or
Okay, yeah, more interesting, but also a little difficult question, I think. Uh, I think the scary part is we have started facing that already. We are seeing that. It is, I think the first one in my mind is extreme rainfall events that, like I've been doing a lot of my reels also based on that.
yeah.
Is that due to climate change, what happens is that rain may not increase that much. Like if you look at the overall for the monsoon, it may not increase that much. But whatever is falling might fall in 1 or 2 days, or it might within that one day, it might just fall in 1 or 2 hours, like as cloudburst events. So the thing is, if you look at the overall total for the season for the monsoon, okay, Kerala gets let's say 2,500 mm. In 20, 30 years down the line, it might be getting 2,600 mm. So that's not too much of a difference. But then on like 1 week of July or 3 days of July, usually if we're getting just, let's say, 60 mm, that's just 20 mm per day. That's like a normal rate, which Kerala can deal with. But instead of 60 mm, we might be getting 300 mm, right? Like 300 mm events, or even that might fall as 100 mm within one hour. So extreme rainfall is really hard to deal with because the soil becomes saturated, especially if it has been raining for so long before that. It can't hold it, and that leads to flooding. That leads to landslides, that sort of thing. The other is before monsoon, the heat and humidity combination, because we've been facing like heat events also. But Kerala being a coastal state, the problem is there's something known as wet bulb temperature, that at a certain combination of heat and humidity, it becomes deadly. It becomes fatal to humans. Because even if you are under shade, even if you're standing under a tree, if you're standing under the awning of a building, if you're outside, at a particular humidity, because humidity is the concentration of water vapor in the atmosphere, we cool down when our sweat can evaporate. But if there is already so much water vapor in the atmosphere, the sweat can't evaporate and our body can't cool down, and you quickly get heat stroke, or it can even lead to death. So, all over the world, climate scientists are worried about these so called wet bulb events becoming more and more frequent, because as temperature increases, it's heat and humidity. So temperature is one aspect of it, but as temperature increases, it also increases evaporation, evapotranspiration. So that leads to more humidity. So that's one more thing that I'm concerned about. The other is, of course, sea level rise, because Kerala has a lot of low-lying areas, especially in the region that I'm interested in, Kuttanad, parts of Alleppey, parts of Kochi, where you're looking at places like, uh, I mean, I'm like, don't take this as a prediction, but this is a very real possibility. Like
it's just only your perspective, right? It's fine.
Like, Queen's Walkway, or the Marine Drive, or parts of Matanjeri and parts of Kuttanad. All of them are very, very risky places, right? And especially with regarding to sea level rise, climate scientists globally, they talk about collapse of ice sheets, like Antarctica, the Antarctic ice sheet. After a certain point, it can just flip and start melting, and you
It's
cannot
like
do
global warming, right?
yeah, you can't do anything to stop it, and it will lead to very fast, quick sea level rise. And more generally, an environmental problem is destruction of Western Ghats, because we're very lucky that we have such a biodiverse forest within our region, right? But if you do a lot of clear cutting of the forest, illegal timber felling, we've been hearing news about that. That's very risky. If the integrity of the forest goes, that like what is happening in Amazon, that's happening in a very, very small scale. Amazon is huge, of course,
Yeah.
but that's happening in a very, very small scale here, because it's one whole unit which has integrity. the Western Ghats. It's a very biodiverse tropical rainforest. So if you cut some parts and you replace that with plantation, you're thinking that's still tree, that's still inside a forest. No, that's not how it happens, right? That leads to its own problems. Yeah.